Well, lads, welcome back to the third episode of Who's Got the Ball. So today I am flying solo. It's going to be a shorter episode. So Shane hurt his back. He's pretty cracked up, so he can't really record this week. But I didn't want to go without getting something out there for you. So I'm going to record an episode on my own. I'm going to talk about the same topics, but I'm going to just shorten them down. So this week I'm going to do kind of a look back on the two games in the NFL from the weekend, the conference championship games, kind of focusing on breaking down what happened there, any takeaways from that, because next week we're going to be previewing the Super Bowl. So we'll try and cover the teams that lost as well, so that we're kind of giving them a bit of airtime, but we will obviously come back to them in the off season. Then I'm also going to talk about a specific team that I want to from the Premier League and also from the NBA, but it's going to be a bit shorter because obviously there's no back and forth. So I'm just going to give a bit of a breakdown of things that I think, and we'll update you then as well on our power rankings and Gan Seans. I'll give you Shane's entries and my own as well. So hopefully you are enjoying the podcast so far, and this is going to be the third episode. Appreciate all the listens, all the shares, everything so far. You're really helping us out a lot. Everybody who's sharing it around and anybody who's followed or anything like that on any platform it's been so great. So thanks a million, and let's just get into it. So obviously on Sunday night we had two massive games in the NFL. So we did have the Commanders facing off against the Eagles first of all. So that was in Philadelphia. And look, I thought it it didn't work out the way that I think a lot of people would have hoped, with a bit of a fairy tale ending for Jaden Daniels. But that's not to take anything away from his performance this season. So actually, before the game, I released an article over on Substack, Who's Got the Ball Substack, so it's linked below. And that was titled, "Is Jaden Daniels the best rookie quarterback of all time?" And I released a poll then on the Instagram page just asking, like, did you guys think that he was the best rookie quarterback of all time, or did he need to win this game? Most people either picked one of those two options. I don't think anybody just said no. But in my opinion, I think he's still the best rookie quarterback of all time, and kind of break it down in that article if you want to go give it a read. Why, just the things he's done this season, and he's only the sixth rookie quarterback to ever get this far and to be starting in a conference championship. And some of those guys kind of just fell into that position, like with Brock Purdy. It wasn't the intention of the franchise to have him there. So he was the most recent one. But now Daniels kind of took that mantle as the most recent rookie quarterback to play in a conference championship game. None of them have ever got to the Super Bowl. So maybe that's next to come soon. But yeah, I don't think it takes anything away from his season, the way they ended up losing. But look, the first drive they went on, Cliff Kingsbury called it beautifully. You know, they just ran some time off the clock. I think looking back, they probably regret not going for it on that 4th and 3. I think they already went for it on 4th down twice on that drive. So, you know, why not go for it again? They've been going for it all season, but look, they wanted to get points on the board in the biggest game of the season for them. But I do think that was an important thing to go out there and get that first touchdown. I don't know if it would have changed things in the long term of the game, in terms of, if you look at the fumbles and all the other things that happened, that one extra, I suppose, touchdown wouldn't have made a difference, but it would have at the start put them on the board with 7 points instead of 3. And then just right after that, long drive, drawn out, excellently called, and then very first play that the Eagles have, Saquon just bursts off that run. It's just like demoralizing, heartbreaking. Like, that's the one thing you want to stop. You want to stop Saquon in a big game like this. And the first thing that he does is break off a run like that. And he goes for, I think, 60 yards into the end zone. Just not exactly the way you want to start your game on defense. So that put them on the back foot straight away. And then I think when it was around 14-12, it looked like the Commanders were coming back into it a bit. There had already been a fumble at that point to get the Eagles, so the Eagles had 2 touchdowns, and I think it was 14-3, and then Daniels got it back up there, 14-12. Did a pretty good job. I think there was a field goal, and then the touchdown, they went for 2 and they didn't get it. But then after that, I don't think he touched the ball again until the score was 15, what was it, 27-12 after that. So he got them to 14-12, and then he didn't touch the ball again until 27-12 because the Eagles had a touchdown, and then McNichols had that fumble on the return, another touchdown. Like that's just that's just not the way that you want it to go for your rookie quarterback. You don't want him to try and get you back into the game. And then next thing you know, he's down 27-12 after the last time he had it. He had just managed to get it to 14-12. So yeah, I think that's a big thing in this game that they didn't really give him the best chance to succeed. And then even then he brought them on a brilliant drive to end the half, and the half ended like 27-15 then. And he got them into that field goal range in like 35 seconds or 40 seconds. So he showed so much what he could do in this game, but things just didn't really work out. Now I think the Commanders did come out second half, and when they started well on defense. So there was two punts for the Eagles early on in that second half. It was a punt, a touchdown, and a punt for the Eagles to start the half. But then Eckler had that fumble when it was 34-23. Like, the name of this game was the fumbles. Like, they just ruined every chance that these Commanders had. So first of all, the early fumble, then when Daniels got them back to 14-12, as I mentioned, there's a touchdown for the Eagles, a fumble, and another touchdown. And then in the second half, when he gets them back to like close enough again, then the defense gets a stop, and then Eckler has that just like absolutely horrendous fumble, just to kind of just rub salt in the wounds really and make it so much more difficult. And then Tom Brady, who I don't know, his commentary is just tragic, but he just of course had to throw in there that Eckler has like small hands as well, just like for absolutely no reason, just throwing that in there. But yeah, not a good performance in terms of looking after the football. And we've said in the last episode, we looked at teams that had turned the ball over, had always lost games, and this is no different. Now we will say in the Bills and Chiefs game, it didn't work out that way, but most of the time it does work out that if you turn over the ball less than your opponent, you're going to have a better chance of winning. And that's just what happened here. Three turnovers, and you just keep giving this Eagles offense the ball. They just keep running it down your throat, and there's literally nothing you can do. Like 7 rushing touchdowns, 55 points scored. I think it was the most ever in a championship game in the NFL. So just unbelievable for the Eagles. But we will talk about them more next week in the Super Bowl preview. But I wanted to give that shout out, I suppose, to Daniels, and just say, he deserved more from this season in terms of getting to the Super Bowl. It would have been absolutely amazing, but he achieved so much, and a lot more than people thought, considering where the Commanders were at the start of the season. But another player I wanted to shout out from this game, we'll probably touch on him more next week as an important player, is Quinyon Mitchell. So when he lined up against McLaurin, who was obviously the Commanders' biggest weapon at wide receiver, he lined up against him on 75% of his snaps, and he allowed him just one catch out of 4 targets for 7 yards, and he also caught an interception on him. Like, just completely locked him down, and not for the first time this season. So props to him as well. But yeah, let's move on then to the other games. So we've got the Bills, obviously, and the Chiefs, which was heartbreaking for the Bills again. Fourth loss for Josh Allen to Mahomes in the playoffs. Just can't make that Super Bowl, can't make that next step. And I don't know. I think it just comes down to one team knowing how to win more than the other. Now, there's a couple of other points that kind of play into that, but the Chiefs have been here before. They know exactly how to see these games out, and they know what they need to do, and they know the calls that they need to make. Like, they're not afraid to go for something a little bit different if they have to. Like when Mahomes threw that last really important first down and it went to Pirine and he got there over the line, iced the game. That's a big call for, I don't think, a player who didn't even touch the ball for the rest of the game. So it's kind of, it just shows the difference between the two teams when you look at that last drive that the Bills had. The biggest problem I had with that last drive is James Cook doesn't touch the ball. How good he was during this game. So he had 13 carries for 85 yards, 6.5 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns, and they don't give him the ball on that last drive. they don't let him touch it once. And he had been explosive, 6.5 yards per carry. Like, you need to go back to him there because that's when they needed to get down the field. At that point, they just needed to get down the field and get into field goal range at the very least. And, it just, I don't understand why they couldn't give him the ball there. I think it would have been such a different story if they kind of fed him the ball, ran the clock down, and just burned their way down the field. That Chiefs defense obviously was absolutely amazing, but like, they were tired. They'd have to be tired at that point. If you just run the ball at them, couple of runs with Allen, couple of runs with Cook, but obviously it didn't play out that way. And a couple of things came back to bite them in the end in terms of, like, Allen started off a little bit slow. That Xavier Worthy catch is just absolutely not a catch at all. Like, he goes up there and he has the ball pinned on Cole Bishop's arm, and as it gets down to the ground, you can see that his one hand is on top of the ball, the other arm is underneath, and then when it gets to the ground, that arm moves away from it, and the ball hits the ground. He didn't have control of the ball on top of his hand. The ground aided him to catch that, and Bishop had more of a hold on it than Worthy did. And to give that as a catch is basically just handing them a touchdown. How close they were to the line. So I don't agree with that. I also do not agree with the first down call. I honestly think that at that point, just at such a crucial moment, and they turned the ball over on fourth down, you're just handing the Chiefs such a great field position. And I think, like, that pass to Kincaid that was just before that, but just before Allen went for it, I think he got there. And then they went quickly before looking at that again. I don't know what the Bills were doing there. They should have taken their time, rushed it, and then Allen tried the sneak, and you could see it looks like he got over the line. I'm not really sure how they call it when one official who was looking at the ball calls it as a first down, and the other guy who can't see the ball overrules him, and that's just that. Chiefs get the ball back, and the rest is history. And even after all that, then they had that chance at the end with that pass to Kincaid. Don't want to focus too much on a drop, but that throw by Allen was absolutely ridiculous. Pressure in his face, and he gets that ball down to Kincaid, and it was a catchable ball. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But yeah, it's just a lot of things for the Bills. They so many nearly moments, and so many times they've nearly been there against the Chiefs, and it's just not worked out. And I had a really interesting stat I saw on Twitter. It was about Allen in the playoffs. So he's first all time in total yards per game, first all time in touchdowns per game, and first all time in touchdown to turnover rate in the playoffs. So he's performed so well in the playoffs, but the Chiefs just keep taking him down, and Mahomes just keeps beating him and knowing how to win. And the Bills' defense, they rely too much on turnovers. Yes, they did get the one turnover this game, but you know they rely too heavily on that one aspect of the game. And I think just this game, the fact that they allowed the Chiefs 30 points, the first time the Chiefs got 30 points all season, in the biggest game of the season. Like, of course, the Chiefs showed up more than they did in other games offensively to get that to happen, but it's not an excuse for the Bills. They needed to perform better, and they've allowed them so many points over the years of playing against them. They've allowed the Chiefs 34 points per game on average across the four losses that they had against them over the years in the playoffs with Josh Allen and Mahomes battling out. So, yeah, defense let them down. A couple of other things, refereeing decisions weren't great, but they still had that chance to win. Forget about the refs' decisions. They still could have won that game. And yeah, things just didn't go their way, and I feel sorry for them because I did think they were going to win it this year. But yeah, we'll get into our predictions for the Super Bowl next week. Myself and Shane will go back and forth about the two different teams, and we'll preview the game. So yeah, that's pretty much everything for the NFL. The two games from the weekend, two big games. That's kind of my 2 cents on it and the breakdown of the games. But moving on then to the Premier League. There's a team I want to chat about, and they're gonna make an appearance later on in the power rankings. But they've just been outrageous recently. Is Bournemouth. So Bournemouth, just a bit of a segment and a bit of a shout out here. So in terms of Bournemouth, they're seventh in the Premier League right now. They're only there on goal difference, so they have one goal less than Chelsea, and then they're also 1 point behind both City and Newcastle. So 1 point behind fourth spot, like for a team that nobody expected to be there a couple of years ago, nobody expected to be there at the start of the season, and they're just having such a good season, and they epitomised it in that beating of Forest, who we only just raved about a couple of weeks ago, the season they've been having, and how complete of a team they are, how good they are defensively, and Bournemouth just absolutely obliterated them. And the thing that was most shocking to me is, and that kind of shows a bit of a turnaround, is that Bournemouth often found it difficult to break down teams like Forest who defended a lot and kind of sat back more. They were much better at playing against teams who kind of were wanting control of the ball and were pressing forward. They just always caused this chaos by pressing up on the ball, players interchanging in the forward line, different things, just basically causing as much chaos as possible to get the other team to basically be thrown off their game, which is very hard to do on other teams that allow you to have the ball, like Forest. So to do that to them, the goals they scored, the control that Clivert had a couple of times for those goals, and I think even the one that was offside, just the way the way he had the ball basically glued to his foot. He's just on an absolute tear at the moment. But in general, their last loss in the Premier League came against Brighton on the 30th of November, so 11 games now without a loss. And Hoyson started to be their centre back. He started for them at centre back the next game after that, and he has just been absolutely excellent. Like, he's just been a rock there for them. His ability on the ball, and Juventus already apparently want him back. Of course they do, but I can't see him staying there for too much longer. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes when these guys perform well at like Premier League teams that aren't typically always in the top five, six. They end up moving on, but there's so many teams sniffing around him now already. And yeah, he's just been an absolute rock for them. What an addition and what a pickup from Juventus. And like, I can't believe Juventus let him go, but he's made such a big difference to them in that team. If you look at in terms of their XG, they're fifth, so they have 42.4 on the season, and they've scored 41 goals. So they're efficient with their chances. They take pretty much all their chances that they create. If you're going about it that way, XG kind of is looking at quality of the chance that you have, and the chance that you would score a goal from a certain pass or whatever. That's kind of more X assists if you're talking about the pass itself, but basically quality of chance. They're creating 42.4 quality chances and scoring 41 goals. Like, there's not like any issue with that at all. They're performing excellently in their attack with players that people didn't expect to score a lot of goals, which is kind of more important for that. You're not having guys wasteful of their chances, especially these guys that people might think they need extra chances, but they're performing exactly to the level that the chances that are being created for them are given. So that's such a testament to them. They're incredibly direct as a team. So they're 17th in the league in passes, total passes, but they're third in shots, and only City and Liverpool are ahead of them. Interestingly, in the passes, Forest are also below them, so that shows the direct nature and the kind of change of the league a little bit, different dynamic to games, and how teams like Bournemouth, Brighton, and Brentford, these type of teams are succeeding. Forest as well, but so interesting that they're third in shots, 375 on the season, but their passing is 17th. And then in terms of tackles, they're sixth in total tackles made, and they're second in interceptions. They've had 222 interceptions already this season, and Lewis Cook has been an absolute rock in midfield. I don't know what his total interception number is, but he's one of the highest in the league, and just he's been so solid in there for them. They need him there to break things up, especially when they invite pressure on and the other players are pressing and trying to win the ball back up high and putting in these snap tackles, getting in there. But then you have him further back, and he's just breaking things up and reading the game so well for them, which is so important. But yeah, I think looking at another player I wanted to shout out as well was Kirkes. How good he's played this season. Another guy who will probably move on. A lot of big teams sniffing around and not as many quality left backs around at the moment in the Premier League, I suppose, as there was years ago. But he's one that's up there, and his attacking ability as well. That goal he scored against Newcastle, just like bursting a lung to get up there, and just an absolute cracker of a finish. Another game that they won. Winning that game 4-1 was such a big deal too. So two huge wins against teams that are in top form themselves in Forest and also in Newcastle, and now they're going to face Liverpool at the weekend. Just a huge test, but I think they can definitely put it up to them, especially if the attackers keep firing. So you have Ouattara, Semenyo, Kluivert. These guys are just firing every week for them. On the season, we have Semenyo with 3 assists and 7 goals, Kluivert 4 assists and 11 goals. Just like these guys are putting out numbers that they haven't before. Semenyo has always been kind of one that pops up in the league. He'll get the odd goal, and you think, oh, he's a player, but he's not consistent. Whereas this year, he's actually been consistent, and Kluivert as well. Just that ability that he has, control of the ball. He's just grown, and I hope he continues to grow. But yeah, Bournemouth is kind of my team that I wanted to focus on for this week, and those are some of the reasons why I think they've succeeded, and I think they will continue to succeed because Areola is such a good manager. So when he was with Vallecano, he got them promoted at the first time of asking through the playoffs from the Segundo division in Spain, and then he got them in 12th and 11th place in his first 2 seasons. So straight away into a solid base, comes to Bournemouth, and his ideas have kind of bedded into the team now after last season. Started off a little bit shaky at first, but you could see what he was trying to implement, and over time they were more solid last season, and now they're going at it exactly the way he wants them to go. And the players are fully bought into his ideas, and you just absolutely love to see a team performing like that. I don't know what it is about that region of Spain, how many managers they produce, but this guy is special. And yeah, I hope he stays there for a while, and I hope some of these players stay there just to keep that kind of momentum going and keep them kind of as a unit, because I think they can achieve like such great things in terms of getting into Europe, into the Europa League or the Conference League would be so huge for the club, and just with the revenue and stuff like that. So yeah, I hope to see them in there, and we're gonna keep an eye on them this season because they've deserved everything that they've gotten, and this big test now in the weekend, which if Shane was here, he'd be saying, he thinks that Liverpool would win, but I think that I think that Bournemouth will get something out of that game. I definitely do. But that actually brings us nicely then into Gan Chance. So without chance in Irish, it's basically picking underdogs. We pick teams that are underdogs. We'd explained in the last couple of episodes how that works. So has to be a team that's playing against a team that's odds on. So that was for the NFL and the Premier League, and then for the NBA, we're picking a team that has 5 less wins than the team they're playing against. They're all from the weekend ahead, but obviously now with the NFL kind of coming to a close, just the Super Bowl left, we're going to do 3 picks, and we're going to spread them at least one from the Premier League and one from the NBA, and then just another one which we think works. So Shane obviously sent his in here, so I'll tell you what he has. So he's gone with Wolves to beat Aston Villa. He has here that Wolves are 23-10 to win. His reasoning is Wolves are due a win, that they've not been too bad recently, and huge Champions League game for Villa versus Celtic, which is on right now, just kicked off as I'm recording. So he's saying that he thinks that Villa will be tired and that it's there for the taking. Bit of a derby as well, obviously, with 2 teams from the Wolverhampton and Birmingham areas. So he said form kind of goes out the window at that point when it's a derby. So yeah, look, I would think that Wolves at home, better chance than if they were away, so you can't knock the shout there. He's gone with Southampton to beat Ipswich as well. I don't know. I like South. I don't know. He's first note here is 2 bad teams. So he is. I know Southampton are the literal worst team in the Premier League history, but Ipswich are cat too. Can't argue with that. He says they're pedestrian, and Wes Burns being out is going to be a big loss for them. Southampton can't continue the run that they're on, and they'll get a result. I could see this being a draw at most. I don't know. I think Ipswich are closer to that, like escaping the relegation zone. So I think they might think we have to win this game. I could see it being like a 2-2, 3-3 draw, something crazy like that. But look, Shane's gone for it. He's gone bold, 14-5 there. And then the last one he's gone for is the Lakers to beat the Knicks in the NBA on the weekend. So Lakers obviously just had a good run of games. Lost last night to the Sixers. Thank God the Sixers are on a small bit of a run. But yeah, that's Shane's three picks. He's currently in the lead 4-2. So he won the first week 2-1 and then again last week 2-1. I was so close with my pick in the NBA last week. Well, so close yet so far because I picked the Spurs to beat the Pacers. They were playing each other over in Paris. And the day after we recorded, they played. Obviously, we were picking games from the weekend. They played again on the weekend, and I was referring to the weekend game because the podcast doesn't come out till Friday. And they won easily on the Thursday night, and then they go on Saturday and they lose by like 30 points. So obviously, yeah, I was pretty annoyed that the Thursday one they were so good, and then on the weekend things just didn't work out. But yeah, 2-1 again to Shane in both weeks, so he's 4-2 up now overall. Then I'll give you my picks. So I've gone with the Blazers to beat the Suns. So the Blazers have 20 wins and the Suns, sorry, 20 wins. The Blazers have 18 wins and the Suns have 24. And so that's on Saturday night in Portland. So Portland were on a 5-game winning streak just out of nowhere. They're playing pretty good basketball. So Tamani Kamara has been good for them. Anthony Simons is back in the team. I don't know. They just look a little bit better, and I've said I'll go for them here. Then they won again last night, so they had a 5-game winning streak, lost to the Thunder only by 10 points, I think, and then last night they won again against the Bucks. So look, stranger things have happened. I think they'll put it off there in Portland against the Suns, who I think the night before I think they have a game. So I think that could be a good shout there. Then in the Premier League, coming back to Bournemouth, I have them to beat Liverpool. So they're 7-2 to beat Liverpool. Liverpool are 4-6. So it's down on the south coast in Bournemouth. I could see it. I can see it being a big game. Fans getting behind them, and I just think this is the best shout of all the underdogs. In the weekend, I didn't really like the others in the Premier League, so I could see this being a draw more realistically, but obviously gonna have to pick underdogs here and pick winners, so I'm going for them. And then my extra pick is the Raptors to beat the Bulls. That's on Friday night in Toronto. So the Raptors have 14 wins and the Bulls have 20. But the Raptors are on a bit of a tear at the moment. They've won 6 of their last 7 games and they're making a bit of a push for that last playing spot. They also, like in the run of wins that they've had, they beat the Celtics, Warriors, the Hawks twice. Obviously, the Hawks have injury issues, but they're a good defensive team. Magic as well, another good defensive team, and they just lost to the Bucks in their last game. But look, they're on a good run in general, really turning things around compared to how bad they were to start the season. Scotty Barnes has looked better after a shaky start to the season, but I think, yeah, I think they can win this game. The Bulls are on the way down, and the Raptors are on the way up, and they're making a push for the Bulls spot basically. With the Hawks slipping too, there's 2 kind of spots that might come up there in the play-in, and the Sixers and Raptors are pushing for them. So I think why not go for the Raptors to beat the Bulls? So that's my 3 picks for Gan Seans and Shane's as well. So keep an eye on those over the weekend, and we'll see how we get on in the next episode. So lastly, for the sports, before I move on to the power rankings, then to wrap things up, I've gone with an NBA team to talk about. So I've gone with the Pistons. They're not on the best of runs recently compared to how they were at the start of the season, but they're still on a good overall trajectory for the season. I think they will make the playoffs. I know the loss of Jaden Ivey is massive, horrible injury, and you just feel for him because he's really coming into his own, especially with the team that they've built, with him and Cade as kind of the 2 main guys on offense. You just felt really bad for him the way that ended up going. But at the start of the season, they looked so much better. They're so much more improved. So Cade was drafted in 2021, first overall, obviously, and that season they went 23-59. They haven't won 23 games in a season since then until this year. So the next season after that, they went 17-65, and then the next season after that they went 14-68. So like they've just gone downhill since they drafted him, and now this season they've shot up. Everything seems to kind of fit a bit more. They've made some better moves in free agency this year than they did previously. I think they've built a team around him nicely now, so Cade can actually play make as well, which is so important. because when he has the ball, he can create his own shot. He's strong. He can post up against smaller guards, but he also needs to have someone around him that can spot up and shoot. And it wasn't as easy for them in previous seasons with him there. Now they have Tobias Harris, who obviously a former Sixer, was never an amazing shooter for the Sixers, but he can make threes and he gives them an option there on the wing, kind of an outlet that people do have to guard, and takes a bit of the heat off Cade. And then obviously Malik Beasley as well, who's been excellent for them in terms of his three shooting ability. But I think now that Ivy has gone down, teams have gone back a little bit more to double team Cade, and I think he is finding it more difficult than he was earlier in the season. But in terms of his progression, he's looked so much better than he did any other season so far. And as I mentioned with his playmaking, that's kind of been the most impressive thing. So this has been his best scoring season so far in the league. He's averaging 25 points per game roughly, most rebounds as well, 6.5, and almost offering 10 assists per game. I think it's mid nine. Obviously, the addition of the guys shooting helped that, and frees him up as well in terms of the fact that if people know that there's somebody on the perimeter that can shoot, it gives him more space inside. And then when Ivy was there as well, he was able to knock down shots. And that's another reason that's kind of taken away too from the team. So this loss to Ivy, I think, is massive. But the ability that they've showed this year and their trajectory in general is so promising. And Pistons fans deserve, a bit of something after all the seasons they've had in recent times. And obviously with the Lions up and coming in the NFL as well, Detroit is a good sporting city right now. They've got the Lions on the up, Pistons on the up. But yeah, in terms of other players then, looking at Sarah Thompson, unfortunately, last season he had that blood clot and he was out for about 8 months in total from the end of last season till now. He's starting to ramp up nicely now, so he has an incredibly high defensive output. He's such a good defender, as is his brother, for the Rockets, which Shane can attest to. Just like such a good defender. Two huge up and coming defenders in the league, big physical players, and just rangy, long arms. All the things you want from elite athletes in the NBA. But he's on around 6.5 rebounds per game now, only on 25 minutes per game across the whole season, and around 2 steals and blocks in total. So he's adding to that defense. He's given them kind of a bit more, I suppose, hands in there. Offensive players can't get through as easily when you know that there's somebody there, similar to like a Jaden McDaniels, where they have those long arms. They can reach and steal the ball kind of from anywhere. They can still come in with a block when you think you're gone past them. So adding young guys like that who have these talents that kind of also help Cade out, because he's obviously the fulcrum of this team. He's the main point. He's the guy that they're building around, but they've complemented him nicely now with Thompson, Ivy, Harris, Beasley. In general, they've had a nice idea now, and you can see it coming together. So I'm happy for them. And I've liked watching them play, and I like watching Cade play, especially when he's on smaller guards. He just bullies them. Like, you need someone bigger to guard him, and that's good for him. He's kind of got more physical with his game. He just needs to start drawing more fouls now when he's shooting, because he doesn't get to the free throw line a lot, and a lot of these elite guys do. It's very important. If he's going to take that next step to draw fouls, it's a similar issue with Maxey, with how good he's been at the Sixers, but he's starting to draw more fouls, and it adds to more points. It kind of keeps the scoreboard ticking over as well, and it once the refs know that you have that ability to draw fouls, and you start getting that whistle, it almost shows you're now like at a higher level and you're like a star. So yeah, definitely going to be one team to watch, not just for this season but going forward. And I do think they'll make the playoffs this year. If it is maybe even just a play in, they'll definitely get in, but I think they could get that maybe 6th or 7th seed even. So yeah, really enjoying them this season, and that's kind of a team I wanted to give a bit of props to. A similar team like Bournemouth, kind of on the up. So yeah, that's my NBA team that I wanted to focus on and have a chat about. while I was here on my own for this week. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know obviously wasn't the same back and forth. It was just kind of like a basically a therapy session for me to talk about whatever sports topics I wanted to talk about. But I'm going to wrap it up now with the power rankings. So, obviously, I'll go through last week's ones first. So for myself, I had Liverpool first, then the Bills. So, yeah, they're obviously gone now for me. Then I had Oklahoma City Thunder. I had Cleveland Cavs, the Chiefs, and Nottingham Forest. So a big change up this week after last weekend's results. I still have Liverpool in first place. I think they've been excellent across the season in Europe and in the Premier League, so I can't knock them off there, unfortunately, even though I would just love to. Just to annoy Shane, I would actually love to just put them sixth here. He would just lose it listening to this because there's no reason why they can't be top across the three NBA, Premier League, and the NFL. They've been consistently just the best performing team this season, in my opinion. Then, secondly, I've put the Rockets. So they're a new addition for me, but they're on an incredible run. I think they've won nine out of their last 11 games, so they're just on an excellent run overall. And importantly for me is that the teams they were beating, so they took down the Cavs and they beat them twice actually. So they contributed to that Cavs 3-game losing streak that they went on. This is a Rockets team that are really on the up. Another team that makes so much sense the way they've built this roster. The players complement each other, and we talked about Jalen Green recently. He has been consistent since we kind of said, he needs to be more consistent. Now, last night he started off a little bit slow in their game against the Hawks, but he did perform well overall. Didn't shoot well from three, but had a solid game, and just that consistency of scoring and contributing to the team overall. Like Tate, how well he played last night too. Just in general, they deserve this second spot, I think, right now, in terms of power rankings, how well they've done and the way they're performing right now, they deserve to be second. Then third, I've gone with the Eagles. So the reason I've gone with the Eagles is because of how many points they put up in such a big game. Like how good they were on offense and how unstoppable Saquon is. And I'm kind of looking to the game ahead in the Super Bowl, so I don't want to give you my prediction yet, but there might be a little bit of something in there to that, so I won't say any more yet. And the Chiefs are next, and after them, the Chiefs remain. They move up a spot from last week for me. But yeah, they remain still in there, obviously, after taking down the Bills team and the incredible season they've had, and basically incredible multiple seasons they've had at this point. Then Bournemouth are in for me at fifth spot. So yeah, just been really impressed with them, obviously, as I already highlighted. And then sixth are the Knicks. Obviously, it's a sad day to put them in after what they did to the Sixers last year and knocked them out of the playoffs. But yeah, they've just been consistently good on offense. They're putting up like so many points every night, like 140 or something the other night. The whole team is just clicking on offense. And yeah, the defense is coming along now too. It wasn't great at all at the start of the season, but how good Cat has been, Jalen Brunson it's been just such a good season on consistency basis for him. Obviously, he hasn't exploded as much as he did at times last season, but he doesn't need to because he has Cat and Bridges and stuff there now, and they've surprised me with how good they've been. So, yeah, just the run they're on, they deserve that sixth spot. So that's my top six, and then we'll get into Shane's. So he's given breakdowns here of each. So he's gone with Liverpool top. He's written best football team in Europe at the moment. They just keep winning, top of all the leagues, still in the cups, flying along nicely. Big games next week. You can just hear the happiness from him there with that one. Rockets second, so he's going very well with his teams right now. Thank God the Jets are bad, or else he would be unbearable to listen to right now, going on about the Liverpool, the Rockets, and the Jets. But look, Jets have a new head coach, so that's another thing we'll need to talk about in the off season. But yeah, he's gone with Rockets second, best current record in the NBA. Beating the Cavs twice, yeah, as a kind of same reasons as me and the Celtics in the last three. Young core are flying it, and he's so excited about them at the moment. So yeah, can't argue with that at all. Chiefs, he's put in brackets. Unfortunately, I kind of converted him to support the Bills last week, and yeah, he was going for the three-peat. Hard to keep them out of it now. They look so good. He said, "I know they have the refs in the pocket, but they're just inevitable." So yeah, Chiefs in there again. So he's gone with the Thunder then in fourth. He said still top of their conference, 7-3 in the last 10, and that they beat the Cavs recently. Quite quite a good performance. Yeah, so hard to argue with that. The West is kind of a stronger conference, so but the East is catching up. It's been more impressive this year, but yeah, he's gone with two Western teams. So top four there for the Thunder, and then fifth he has Bournemouth. So that's the same as me, both in fifth place with Bournemouth. So 4-1 and 5-0 back to back against teams that they were probably underdogs against. Areola's doing a great job. Hoyson and Zabarnia are the youngest centre back pairing in the league and are just amazing together, even though they both annoy me with short sleeves and gloves. Yeah, this is such a shame thing to be annoyed there by that. But Cliver playing like his dad at his prime, one of the best teams to watch currently. Yeah, so he's gone into some of the details, some of the stuff that I chatted about as well. So yeah, nice to see him kind of being on the same wavelength as me there. And then sixth, he's got Eagles, 2 Super Bowl appearances in 3 years. Barkley is a killer. Hurts is a great compliment to him. AJ and Smith are great options at receiver. Good team, as disappointing as it was. And then getting over the Commanders, they're a stronger match for the Chiefs than the Commanders would have been. So yeah, hard to argue with that. I've gone with the Eagles over the Chiefs just because of that demolition they had on the Commanders and how strong Saquon is, and I think how good their defense is. But we'll get a bit more into that next week when the two of us are here to chat about the Super Bowl and preview it. Yeah, but that's everything for this week. Let me know if you enjoyed the episode. Leave a comment. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on Spotify, make sure to follow the show on Spotify, like, rate, all that good stuff on any podcast app, and subscribe on YouTube too. Give us a follow on socials as well. We'll be back again next week, but both of us, hopefully Shane will be a bit more recovered. Because he's took a pretty nasty injury to his back. So yeah, this has been me for this week. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to me waffling on my own, and I'll catch you all again next week, lads.